Bill, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about ransomware. I just read this article and it was the scariest thing. As a former healthcare CIO, it was the scariest thing I've read. And it was really about one of the health systems that got attacked and lost everything, lost all their images for years. Like there's no way to get them back, kind of thing. And that is one of those things that scares the living daylights out of executives at this point. Of you can't negotiate, you can't pay for to get the keys to unlock that information. Therefore, you're at the whim how of what happens to you once they are in and doing those things. What protects a Rubrik from that kind of attack? What kind of architecture have you guys implemented that would either alert or protect against ransomware attack?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you. So I would say number one, I hate to beat the drum, but this idea of security at the point of data is really the big driver for our value relative to that use case. Oftentimes these images are in storage systems that are on premises. When we're protecting this stuff, we're typically ingesting it into our product, storing snapshots for some duration of time, sticking a copy in the cloud somewhere, right? And then in a scenario like this, the desire is to recover en masse as rapidly as possible to the last known good point in time. And so our product is engineered in such a way that the actual file system on the ingest point, first and foremost, is built with being immutable in mind, like all the way down to the lowest primitive. And I don't want to belabor the point too much, but like this extends all the way down into the file system layer, where literally the file system APIs will not accept override operations, even from our own software. And then it climbs up the stack there. So those APIs are authenticated, right? And they're built specifically to talk to our data management applications. There's CRCs built in all the way up and down the stack. So this is sort of the product that goes in the data center, sort of a clustered scale out architecture. And so that file system all the way down to like the chunk level, all the way up to the stripe and object level, has CRCs built all the way up and down the stack. And so we do like rolling scrubs on the data set itself to ensure it hasn't changed since ingest. And then we do scrubs as the data is reassembled and presented to the data management application for recovery to ensure that the actual data being returned to the end user is in a known good state from its last known snapshot that you're trying to recover from. And so that's just the fundamental, like we know the data is good attributes of the file system itself, but that's kind of tactical. I think the more strategic thing that we do is the idea of using the metadata from our snapshots and from the file systems and virtual machines and databases and cloud instances that we're protecting, and keeping track of known good patterns in that data set, and then alerting the end user if we see an anomalous pattern, right? So this could be sweeping ACL changes, file extension changes, the actual contents of the files themselves changing, just as examples. And the people that write this are way smarter than me. The engineers can tell you all the models that they're using and how they've trained it and whatnot. But the net of it is that we can detect anomalous behavior. And when we think we see ransomware, we alert the end user, and then we essentially provide through our SaaS control plane the ability to identify the blast radius, so what's been affected, and the ability to identify last known good point in time. And then we hand them a workflow where they can begin rolling back or recovering maybe into an account where they might conduct some sort of forensic activity or what have you, whatever that sort of their run book and their use case dictates at that point. So I would say security at the point of data, knowing that the data is good, protecting the data from malicious activity, like all the way down to a fundamental level, is point number one. And then intelligence on top of operational backup and recovery, so that data set is like immediately at your fingertips during an event, would be the second biggest point that I would present.